We've all seen those games that just go on top and dominate. But the real question is, what makes them so different from the games that just stay dead? The same art style, the same passion, and the same player base, but different destinies. What makes one successful and the other a failure? To elevate yourself to that level where you just go on top, have an amazing fan base that supports, loves, and invests in your game, to get to that point where that people get obsessed, you must understand that to make a good game, you must think more like a psychologist and feel like a player. Otherwise, you'll do what everyone else does wrong, which is to create a game blindly, spending hours pouring their hearts out, putting passion, effort, and dedication onto just one project, just to see it fail. All the time wasted, all the effort unknown, never seen, or never charted out. To make a game that people can really, really love is to know what to avoid. And what players hate is a game that's not replayable. At first, replayability looks like something easy to accomplish, and it is, but most people get it insanely wrong. Only if you truly understand the concept of replayability is when you can actually make a game that people will love. To understand what makes a game replayable is to understand what makes a game not replayable. So let me explain to you what most games do wrong. And the first one I have to mention is that things are becoming way too predictable. There's something called the reward prediction error system. Basically, your brain is constantly always trying to predict what happens next. It's always calculating, what would I expect? What will I get? When the brain isn't able to calculate what's going to happen, it surprises the player. And when you're surprised, your dopamine neurons fire in large bursts, which is what makes a game fun. To release the player's dopamine, which is the reward chemical, it's not always necessary to give your player a reward. Sometimes just predicting a reward can make the experience far more fun and enjoyable. The player's brain is like an AI or a machine. It's constantly learning patterns. What's going to happen next? What mechanic does what? It's always learning. And the moment the game or the environment becomes predictable, the anterior cingulate cortex stops registering these prediction errors, which makes it so the dopamine neurons don't fire, and that results into your player being unhappy and bored. When the prefrontal cortex, which is like the controller of your brain, is no longer rewarding, but our motor cortex, which is still playing the game and doing the work, is still responding, your brain gets conflicted. A certain part of the player's brain, called the amygdala, gets confused with this conflict. And it interprets this confusion as frustration, which is why players get the I don't know why, but I don't want to play this anymore feeling. Another issue on why games aren't replayable is they're basically too simple. Like I said, our brain is always learning and building new patterns. So when things are a bit too easy, our mind decides to automate those tasks. Or if there's nothing to learn, our mind just decides to work off muscle memory and automates everything. On top of that, the player's hippocampus, which is in charge of memory and heavily linked to our main controller of the brain, if basically you've seen or done something before, your brain stops trying to remember things. It just works off muscle memory. So when that happens, your main controller of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, stops getting engaged, which makes the player basically just drift off into a dream state. Like they're in their own zone. They're not involved in the game, which results in them getting bored and results in them basically being aware of time. To get players really immersed, you need to get them into a flow state where they just lose track of what's happening or how much time they're spending. What players need is something constantly new and constantly engaging. And nowadays, it's difficult to do that with how stimulated people are from watching things like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, and now Sora. You need to really understand how to make the player engaged if you want to get on top, because there's a lot of competition going on in the industry. A lot of people fighting to get to the top, but only a few great creators who know what they're doing can actually get there. Whenever designing anything in general, you have to wonder, what emotion does this release? What part of the brain is this triggering? Every top game designer knows what they're doing. Most paths were designed. They got to where they are because of a reason. Nothing is an accident. The human brain is wired for replayability. If they're getting unpredictable scenarios that aren't too overstimulating or aren't too static, they're going to be happy. They're going to love your game. If they're getting concepts or things that are unique, fun to learn, people are going to be even more hooked. And your player isn't just someone that pops into your game. They're the foundation of your success. They're the foundation of what makes your time, effort, and work worth it. Now, that's the end of this video. See you guys in the next one.